My beside. Welcome to the channel. And where are we? We're in the gym, the gym room, and I'm trying a different way of creating content to put up on the channel. And I've had this camera for a while, and I figured it'd be cool for me to get some cool excerpts from books that I would have came across in the years of research and from the list of books that Panic would have put up as well in his videos and different scholars, get some nice excerpts out of it, and then create content from that to where we could have a discussion on the excerpts and go through a lot of this great scholarship that we need to be studying and going through anyways for the enlightenment. Excuse me. Yeah, that being the case, this is, well, it's like the first video that I'm gonna put up, and we're gonna go into the book Power versus Force by David Hawkins. Now, this particular excerpt is very insightful on certain things, like it's going into the particular frequency, because we know that we're coming in on the electromagnetic spectrum, right? We know that we're coming in at a particular part right here, which is the visible part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And this answers a question as well. I had a, well, let me finish this point. So we coming in into the visible part of the electromagnetic spectrum, which manifests along the 7 light bands, right? That being the case, we know that every color has a particular frequency, and the frequencies harness a particular energy. Now, in this video, they're going to go into explaining frequencies, or David Hawkins is going to go into explaining frequencies and the level of frequencies at which certain types of energy or certain types of perspectives would manifest, like sadness, guilt, shame, and these different things. Now, this is an excerpt from the book again, Power and Force. And we're going to get right into the first part. It's very insightful. And why this part, why I choose this part, is because you could use the information in here to get into shadow work. You could use it for ancestral veneration. You can use it to improve your day-to-day experiences. If you don't want to find yourself dealing in the things that persons might deal in when they're sad, when they're dealing with shame, then you might want to identify some of these things and see if it's manifesting within your present day-to-day and curb them in whichever way you might want to curb them. But let's get right into what David Hawkins is talking about. Power versus force.
We have adopted the following classification of these energy fields to be easily comprehensible as well as clinically accurate. It is very important to remember that the calibration figures do not represent an arithmetic but a logarithmic progression. Thus, the level 300 is not twice the amplitude of 150, it is 300 to the 10th power 10 to 300. An increase of even a few points therefore represents a major advance in power. The rate of increase in power as we move up the scale is enormous. The ways the various levels of human consciousness express themselves are profound and far-reaching. Their effects are both gross and subtle. All levels below 200 are destructive of life in both the individual and society at correlates of the energy fields of consciousness. It is well to remember that they rarely are manifested as pure states in an individual. Levels of consciousness are always mixed. A person may operate on one level in a given area of life and on quite another level in another area. An individual's overall level of consciousness is the sum total effect of these various levels. Energy level 20. Shame. The level of shame is perilously proximate to death, which may be chosen out of shame as conscious suicide or more subtly elected by failure to take steps to prolong life. Death by avoidable accident.
Wow. So anything below 200 is not something that's productive or not a frequency or energy level that you want to be existing on for too much, or you don't want to be there, you don't want to operate from there as your fulcrum, as your focus point. You want to now make sure that you understand, okay, that's where this manifests at. That's what these types of behaviors are. But I don't want to stay there. I want to know that that's what it is and know how to polarize myself so that I don't experience the things that come from that. Because remember, shame is something that we all deal with. But let's hear what David Hawkins is saying about shame, because this is something that we all deal with. You know, shame, peer pressure, all of these different things that we think that we grow past it because we're older now. But there's a lot of things that we still deal with when it comes to shame. Everybody got their own little thing that they might be self-conscious about, you know.
No. Losing face, becoming discredited, a non-person. In shame we hang our heads and slink away, wishing we were invisible. Banishment of 50. Shame, as Freud determined, produces neurosis. It is destructive to emotional and psychological health and, as a consequence of low self-esteem, makes one prone to the development of physical illness. The shame-based personality is shy, withdrawn and introverted. Shame is used as a tool of cruelty, and its victims often become themselves cruel. Shamed children are cruel to animals and cruel to each other. The behavior of people whose consciousness is only in the 20s is dangerous. They are prone to hallucinations of an accusatory nature, as well as paranoia. Some become psychotic or commit bizarre crimes. 61. Some shame-based individuals compensate by perfectionism and rigidity and become driven and intolerant. Notorious examples of this are the moral extremists who form vigilante groups, projecting their own unconscious shame onto others whom they then feel justified in righteously attacking. Serial killers have often acted out of sexual moralism with the justification of punishing bad women. Because it pulls down the whole level of personality, shame results in a vulnerability to the other negative emotions and, therefore, often produces false pride, anger and guilt. Energy level 30. Guilt. Guilt, so commonly used in our society to manipulate and punish, manifests itself in a variety of expressions such as remorse, self-recrimination, masochism, and the whole gamut of symptoms of victimhood. Unconscious guilt results in psychosomatic disease, accident proneness and suicidal behaviors. Many people struggle with guilt their entire lives, while others desperately attempt escape by immorally denying guilt altogether.
So you mean being accident prone is people that just dealing with guilt? So when you're saying, oh, you're just clumsy, you're just accident prone, no, you might be guilty about something. There's some type of guilt that might be making you a klutz. You see how important it is? Enlightenment, power versus force. And if you guys like this method of sharing the content, then like and comment below so that I can do more of these types of videos. If you enjoy it, leave a comment in the comment section. If you have any insights, any perspectives that you would like to share on anything that we're reading right now, let's have a conversation in the comment section.
Disease, accident proneness and suicidal behaviors. Many people struggle with guilt their entire lives, while others desperately attempt escape by immorally denying guilt altogether. Guilt domination results in a preoccupation with sin, an unforgiving emotional attitude frequently exploited by religious demagogues, who use it for coercion and control. Such sin and salvation merchants, obsessed with punishment, are likely either acting out their own guilt or projecting it onto others. Subcultures displaying the aberration of self-flagellation often manifest other endemic forms of cruelty, such as the public ritual killing of animals. Guilt provokes rage, and killing frequently is its expression. Capital punishment is an example of how killing gratifies a guilt-ridden populace. Our unforgiving American society, for instance, pillories its victims in the press and metes out punishments which have never been demonstrated to have any deterrent or corrective value. 62. Energy level 50. Apathy. This level is characterized by poverty, despair, and hopelessness. The world and the future look bleak. Pathos is the theme of life. It is a state of helplessness. Its victims, needy in every way, lack not only resources, but the energy to avail themselves of what may be available. Unless external energy is supplied by caregivers, death through passive suicide can result. Without will to live, the hopeless stare blankly, unresponsive to stimuli, until eyes stop tracking and there is not enough energy left to even swallow proffered food. This is the level.
Wow. Are we living in apathy? There's not enough energy left to swallow proper food. There's not enough energy to make you be triggered enough to not eat GMO food, to eat a healthier diet. There's not enough energy left for you to consume proper food when you're living in a mind state, in a perspective, in a frequency of apathy. How insightful. Every one of us, me, you, we should be checking ourselves on this again. Power versus force. David Hawkins.
The apathetic are dependent. People in apathy are heavy and are felt as a burden by those around them. Too often society lacks sufficient motivation to be of any real help to cultures, as well as individuals, at this level, who are seen as drains of resources. This is the level of the streets of Calcutta where only the saintly such as Mother Teresa and her followers dare to tread. It is the level of the abandonment of hope, and few have the courage to really look in its face. Energy level 75, grief. This is the level of sadness, loss, and despondency. Most of us have experienced it for periods of time, but those who remain at this level live a life of constant regret and depression. This is the level of mourning, bereavement and remorse about the past. It is also the level of habitual losers and those chronic gamblers who accept failure as part of their lifestyle, often resulting in loss of jobs, friends, family, and opportunity, as well as money and health. Major losses in early life make one later vulnerable to passive acceptance of grief as though sorrow were the price of 63 life. In grief one sees sadness everywhere, the sadness of little children, the sadness of world conditions, the sadness of life itself. This level colors one's entire vision of existence. Part of the syndrome of loss is the notion of the irreplaceability of what is lost or that which it symbolized. There is a generalization from the particular, so that the loss of a loved one is equated with the loss of life itself. At this level, such emotional losses may trigger a serious depression or death. Though grief is the cemetery of life, it still has more energy to it than does apathy. Thus, when a traumatized apathetic patient begins to cry, we know he is getting better. Once he starts to cry, he will eat again. Energy level 100, fear. At the level of 100 there is a lot more life energy available. Fear of danger is healthy. Fear runs much of the world, spurring on endless activity. Fear of enemies, fear of old age.
So, fear is 100, so we're still halfway out, right? And if you notice, apathy, guilt, shame, fear, all of these things is just consistent on most timelines. Apathy, guilt, shame, fear, and just everything else that would have been mentioned right there is consistent on most timelines. It's consistent in sometimes most realities. And then we wonder to ourselves why we're not living in our holistic divine energy, why we always find ourselves somehow wanting. It's because we're living in frequencies that is destructive. And we are infinite beings. So isn't that you just going in the same cycle of destruction all the time? It's crazy.
Level. The world looks hazardous, full of traps and threats. Fear is the favored official tool for control by oppressive totalitarian agencies, and insecurity is the stack-in trait of major manipulators of the marketplace. The media and advertising play to fear to increase market share. The proliferation of fears is as limitless as the human imagination. Once fear is one's focus, the endless fearful events of the world feed it. Fear becomes obsessive and may take any form. Fear of loss of relationship leads to jealousy and a chronically high stress level. Fearful thinking can balloon into paranoia or generate neurotic defensive structures and, because it is contagious, become a dominant social trend. 64. Fear limits growth of the personality and leads to inhibition. Because it takes energy to rise above fear, the oppressed are unable to reach a higher level unaided. Thus, the fearful seek strong leaders who appear to have conquered their fear to lead them out of its slavery. Energy level 125, desire. There is yet more energy available at this level. Desire motivates vast areas of human activity, including the economy. Advertisers play on desires to program us with needs linked to instinctual drives. Desire moves us to expend great effort to achieve goals or obtain rewards. The desire for money, prestige, or power runs the lives of many of those who have risen above fear as their predominant life motif. Desire is also the level of addictions, wherein desire becomes a craving more important than life itself. The victim of desire may actually be unaware of the basis of his motives. Some people become addicted to the desire for attention and drive others away by their constant demands. The desire for sexual approval has produced an entire cosmetics and fashion industry. Desire has to do with accumulation and greed. But desire is insatiable because it is an ongoing energy field, so that satisfaction of one desire is merely replaced by unsatisfied desire for something else. Multimillionaires remain obsessed with acquiring more and more money. Desire is a much higher state than apathy or greed, obviously. In order to get, you have to first have the energy to want. TV has had a major influence on many oppressed people, inculcating wants and energizing their desires to the degree that they move out of apathy and begin to seek a better life. One can start us on the road to achievement. Desire can, therefore, become a springboard to yet higher levels of awareness. 65. Energy level 150, anger. Although anger may lead to homicide and war, as an energy level it is farther removed from death than those below it. Anger can lead to and grief to overcome fear as a way of life. They begin to want. Desire leads to frustration, which in turn leads to anger. Thus, anger can be...
Wow. So anger is at a higher frequency than shame, guilt, apathy, and fear. Even desire is lower in frequency than anger. I'll say it again because that's crazy. Anger is a higher frequency than apathy, fear, and even desire and shame. Wow. This book is insightful, and I want to say thanks to Brother Rich, Dr. Be Serious, for dropping this book right here, because this is a very insightful book, and I'm happy that I took the time to get into it.
Society. But anger expresses itself most often as resentment, and revenge is, therefore, volatile and dangerous. Anger is a lifestyle as exemplified by irritable, explosive people who are oversensitive to slights and become injustice collectors, quarrelsome, belligerent, or litigious. As anger stems from frustrated want, it is based on the energy field below it. Frustration results from exaggerating the importance of desires.
Wow, frustration from exaggerated desires. What is your perspective of self? Who are you right now? I want to thank you again for watching. Do remember to like and comment, and let's have a conversation in the comment section below. Because these videos are very large, I'm going to try to keep them within 20 minutes so it's easier for me to upload. This video was brought to you with the compliments of T-Mobile, keeping us connected no matter where in the world we're located, and a butterfly, healthy, wealthy always. Thanks again for watching. Catch you in the next one.